basically the last session of today at the first day of the 9th edition of the Goa Arts and Literature Festival. Thank you all for being here. I know that Ram Goa is speaking in the other room, which draws as its own kind of attraction. But this is an extremely important session to me and to us and to the Literature Festival. One of the things that we've learned over the years is that the best thing to do is actually have writers read their works much more than talk about them. And over the years we've had a series of eccentric kind of attempts at we've had poetry Antakshari, in which Ranjit has taken part. Or maybe you won't hear that. And we've had round robin readings, and Mustan Said Dalvi has been very kindly subjecting us to all of these and subjecting some of the best poets in the world to these kind of exercises. We had an unbelievable lineup, Landeg White, and others. This is something I'm really grateful to both Arundhathi and Ranjit for participating in. I'm not going to waste too much time introducing them, other than they are both, as far as I'm concerned, I often think, my mind thinks in this way, I'm sorry, they are two of the finest in the world, and we are super privileged to have them with us. So I often think in terms of, I'll take my guy against your guy, and here, in this instance, I have Arundhathi also, but in this, I'll take these two against anyone, anywhere of their ilk in the world, and I'll put my money on mine, right? So sorry for you as my guys, but you have. So here, and also thank you for participating in this Jugalbandi. I will not be able to be here for most of it. I'll catch up with you, but I would, if possible, it's entirely in your hands. Perhaps you will find words that resonate with each other, and have at it. You can keep going as long as you wish. There is no time limit on this. Keep going as long as you wish, and as long as the audience would like. You can also have special requests, as sometimes happens in the Jugalbandi situation. Okay, thank you both for this very special session.
This is truly an unstructured, unchoreographed session, but I know that I speak for Ranjit, at least at this point, when I say that this is the kind of session I personally look forward to at the festival. The idea of this kind of Jugalbandi with a fellow poet, it's a thoughtfully curated session, and the idea of being in conversation with someone whose work I've known a very, very long while, and to have this kind of audience, which is an intimate audience, it doesn't get better than that. So I'm going to start by, since we haven't thought this through, I'm going to suggest this to Ranjit, and let's see if this works. Ranjit's most recent book is something he's going to talk to you about, but it's suffused with images of water. It's an aquatic book. So what I thought I'd do is to pick out poems from my 4 collections that work with the image of water in some way. Water is not always central. It's sometimes the background to the poem, it's sometimes a recurrent motif, but it's there. It's an important part of the poem. Should we start with the water poems? Ranjit has a new book out this year, so we should start.
It's absolutely marvelous to be here. As you said, Arundhathi, it's really, really moving. Going back more than 30 years as we do. And to be reading together like this and to be going back and forth with this audience is something I look forward to as well, this particular session. I'm going to begin with a poem called Ocean. My name is Ocean. I shall not be contained. My tides spell starting gun and finish line. Afterwards, only shells and scattered roofs will remind you I was there. My combers wash away the roots of trees, towns, the shaken heart. But mortals, there's hope. My breakers hurl seeds back at your shores after the flood. The chroniclers will write in Konkani, Sabir, Aymara, Tulu, Jarawa, Creole, top piscine. After the flood, the beach exploded with giant peacock trees, in whose branches on windy days you could hear the surge and swell of ocean summoning whales, whalers who chased blood wakes, red-haired women who fought pirates, sleepless harpooners who sailed from fjordlands to where volcanoes splintered the sleeping ice, furies who choked pearl divers, drove catamarans aground, voyagers who fell into the sea and grew wings, ocean reciting from his depths every drifting epic of pursuit, every song of shipwreck, every trace of raft and sail and trailing anchor, flotsam, jetsam, buckram, vellum, he could remember. I'm going to read one called Sycorax, and it's a 14-line poem, but what it tries to do is, oh my god, I'm looking right at the most profound Shakespeare scholar in this room, Jonathan Lear Harris. It, as you will see, it outdoes some of the damage of the Tempest, which is legible as an allegory of colonialism. So this is from the point of view of Sycorax, and what happens to her in this poem is what happens to Ariel in the play, but this is a backstory in my view. Sycorax. Woke up trapped in a tree trunk, speech slurred, though all I'd drunk was buried blood. It must have been the old man with his cursed and cursing stick, which spanned my rainbow-shored island in tight, cunning sweeps. Swamps, jungles, rivers, all measured in leaps, and leached, cropped, damned to suit his will. The magus in his coracle, his eye fixed on the kill. He has caged my bright-billed birds in new names, mapped ash from his crucible across the flames of my volcano, tamped it down. My skin is bark, on which his steaming slaves will carve his dark memoirs of war. He will claim eternity as his own, raise his monument on my stabbed muscles, my powdered bones. I'm going to move to from the sea to a sea of sand. So this is called Shifting Sands. This is called Dunhuang, and it's a place that I have a great fondness for from a great distance, not having it there, because it is it reminds you of the Silk Route, of the circulations that have for millennia made nonsense of these very recent national identities that we cherish and use as bludgeons. Dunhuang was also the place where the first printed book was actually made. Late in the 9th century, or a long while before the Gutenberg Bible. It was the Diamond Sutra. So, Dunhuang. For years, nothing. Then torrents of sand. What could you chant against the howling wind? The caves swallowed themselves. Centuries later, abbots would scan the sky for flights of cranes to lead them to the lost lake they were trudging across. Here and there, they find strips of silk, bookmarks in the archive of the dunes, as they stumbled away from their dromedaries, holding their breath, saving their prayers for the other drifting, shipwrecked shore. Okay, I'm going to read a prose poem, since there was talk of prose books in the earlier session. I think it's something we're all preoccupied with as a form. And the figure, there is a connection with one of Ustad's cherished figures. This is really, as you will see when I read the book, it's called Wound. The olive trees cast shadows sharp enough to wound. I scrubbed them off my sleeves with a wet cloth, sat down on a bench and waited for my friends to arrive. The hours, so many flat stones that I aimed at the skin of a stream, watching them skip and bounce and skip and bounce and not sink all the way across the water. The moon had wrecked itself on a reef of clouds before everyone showed up. Some of them were glowing with such excitement you'd think a miracle was about to happen. One or two backed away when they saw me at the table, like they'd catch an infection if they sat down next to me. He wasn't there yet. Did he really think we would all believe him? Did he think we would all just fall down on our knees and accept that he was the master come back? And there he stood, the oil lamps rising in his eyes and speaking in the master's voice, to be sure. But that wasn't proof enough. It could easily have been an actor's trick. The others seemed convinced, or maybe they were all pretending, forming a hard, handling chain of silence around him. I was on my own, the only one in the room who had questions that called out to be answered. He saw me hesitate. Come here, he signed to me. Try me. There's only one way to make sure, I thought. I stood up. I wanted to root him in his thinness, grab the hem of his robe and test his muscles, or show the others he was just a tissue of time. I wasn't sure what he was, but I was sure what he wasn't. He was a vapor the closer I got, a musk fragrance, then wildflowers, then a rank smell of horse. He had been, no longer was, said he was again. Would he vanish? Would he be again? I stepped up to him, meaning to part the folds before he could stop me. When he threw back his robe and, taking my wrist in a firm grip, straightened my index finger into a bodkin with his other hand and buried it, dirt under the nail and all, a few inches below his right nipple in an open wound. Or his twin. You'll never know, he whispered in my ear, will you? You'll just have to find out how deep your own wound is. That's why I'm sending you away now, out of this room, out of this door, away from those who believed without checking, down to the harbor, to a gaunt ship that will catch the starburst of the whale's breath, that will take you to a coast where the sun will beat down on you for 6 months, stopping only to let the rain explode across the rows of coconut palms for the other 6, filling the backwaters until they raise and carry your boat east as you sing your songs, which fill the sky like slowly scattered birdsong, and build your temples on promontories of cloud and wait for the spear to find you.
I particularly enjoyed hearing the prose poems today. It's been interesting that both of you are working with prose poems. I don't know if others here are. For me, the prose poem isn't something I've been drawn to yet. Cycles, poem cycles, yes. But those end up being lyric fragments that in some way feel the need to hang together. Not yet the prose poem. But what I thought I would do before I got into the water image is to actually express gratitude. And one way of expressing gratitude, just for the fact that we're sitting in this room, many of us who've known each other 30 odd years, and some others who've become more recent friends. It's It's a special moment. I want to thank you for being here, and yes, thank you, really. It's not the kind of thing that one takes for granted anymore. These convergences don't happen as easily as they once did. So I'm going to read a poem to friends, and that's from my most recent collection, When God is a Traveler. But I must say at the start, this is intended to be a tribute to friends, but it may not sound like one. I'm fully prepared to have friends write similar poems back to me. My friends. They're sodden, the lot of them. Leafy, with more of damage. Mottled with history. Dark with grime. God knows I've wanted them different, less preoccupied, more jaunty, less handled with care, more airbrushed, less prone to impossible dreams, less perishable, a little more willing to soak in the sun. They don't measure up. They're unpunctual. They turn suddenly tuberous, but they matter for their crooked smiles, their endless distractions, their sudden pauses, signs that they know how green stems twist and thicken as they vanish into the dark, making their way through their own sticky vernacular tissues of mud, improvising, blundering, improvising. I thought I'd move on to a couple of what could perhaps be called love poems. But before that, I'm going to read my Bombay poem to you. It's an old poem, it's from my second book, Where I Live. It's the title poem of the book. And the reason I choose to read it is because Bombay is our city. It's a city for many of us that is home. It's home for many. But it's also a city that for me can get landlocked and insufferable and insular until one hits the sea. And then it's a sudden reminder that we live in a harbor city and that there are other ways of inhabiting that city. So this is a poem where the image of water comes at the very end. For me, it's a kind of opening out. It's the way I experience Bombay. Where I live. I live on a wedge of land, reclaimed from a tired ocean. Somewhere at the edge of the universe. Greetings from this city of L'Oreal sunsets and diesel afternoons, deciduous with concrete, botoxed with vanity. City of septic magenta hair clips, of garrulous sewers and tight-lipped taps, of 80s film tunes buzzing near the left temple, of ranting TV soaps and monsoon melodramas, city racked by hope and bulimia, city uncontained by movie screen or epigram, city condemned to unspool in an eternal hysteria of lurid nylon dream, city where you can drop off a swollen local and never be noticed, city where you're a part of every imli soaked pale puri, city of the Mahalakshmi beggar peering up through a gorse bush of splayed limbs, city of dark alleys, city of mistrust, city of forsaken tubelit rooms, city that coats the lungs, stiffens the spine, chills the gut with memory, city suspended between flesh and mortar and faux leather and delirium, where it is perfectly historical to be looking out on a sooty handkerchief of ocean, searching for God. Back to water. I thought I'd read a couple of poems that I don't often read. They're love poems in the book. And the first is one in which the image of water is, this is Holland. You know, where the image of water is very much here as a backdrop to the poem. It's a poem about love, it's a poem about language, but the very sunlit canals of Amsterdam are an integral part of the poem. It's always interested me that those canals seem like daytime places, very unlike the darker, mysterious canals of Venice, where the script ends. His shirt is tangerine, the sky, Delft, the sunshine, daffodils. Even jealousy gleams brighter here than broccoli stir-fried. In this daytime land, the canals speak an unambiguous tongue. We look over our shoulders for just a hint of Venice. All languages are honest here, just none honest enough. At home he speaks a dialect he's never written in, not even when his mother died. And I know what it is to live in a place where the mind's ink has many tributaries, fermented enough to make old songs seem just a little untrue. It doesn't matter whether he reads my lips or I his Mandarin fine print, because it still makes sense. The old dream, woman and man under a night sky, and for a moment between them, a single moon. And before I hand the mic back to Ranjit, I'm going to move to water again, but a different kind of water. This is the dark, greasy, memory-laden water of a kitchen sink. The dark night of kitchen sinks. I know you, of course. Your familiar swamp of grease and indignity. Knives and spoons scattered like mutilated limbs across a battlefield of gravy streaked plates and wounded china. After the civilities of supper, I've heard the hums of cutlery. Who hasn't? Unleashing their true selves. Jostle, raid, ravish, slump. And I recognize you. Just another kitchen sink, dreaming of foam and equanimity. Another lifetime, and we'll get there, I promise. Creamy, lavender scented, pH balanced. For now, your dreams smell of detergent and mine of love. It could be enough.
Since you mentioned canals, I think I'm going to read, if I can find it, a poem that's set in Venice, which has to do with somebody to whom we are all greatly beholden, Francesco Griffo, who invented italics. Yeah. So this is called Printer. Follow his shaking, roasted hand. He sets chisel against a wooden edge, points burin at plate, strikes lead against a wedge, lays kern against grain, and so through the night rounds out the ringing cavalcade of words. The ink rains down in neat lines, and orchards planted on the sheet Songs, verses, prayers grow. He prunes them all with wayward grace. The page burns bright, the typesetter's eyes grow rimmed with red, from staring at tight, infinitely small and mocking margins. His reigned lust explodes in hot metal, then fine brocade. Most mornings he ends up drunk in a canal, bruised from a brawl. One day he will swing from a hangman's rope, singing to the last. Yes, in 3 languages, yes, I announce, I declare, I proclaim it. I was manic enough last night to smash through all the typefaces, to drug every font, and now in my own sharply cut sans serif, I've slugged this by dimming candlelight for today's edition, this crazed compositor's invocation to a dawn that will break over Venice without his help. Where I'm going, there's blazing horror and no gentle restoration. Pitch, the only ink, flame, the only imprint, and icy darkness, my lord high censor. Find harbors, or your galleys that sail out of my mind's bedeviled press. Speaking of what can and cannot be printed or said or even thought in these marvelous times we're living in, this is called Hangman's Song. A tired man will hang at dawn for hearing voices in his head. Tomorrow's newspapers won't be read, and the Republic will sleep peacefully. The Rottweilers have been taken off the leash. They are nosing out children in the dark. Tomorrow's joggers will stumble in the park, and the Republic will sleep peacefully. A white crow settles on a branch, stripped of its leaves, which boys shred. The flayed rain trees will soon be dead, and the Republic will sleep peacefully. The lion's open mouth is foaming. His keepers have foraged for flesh all night. They will pile up their plunder at first light, and the Republic will sleep peacefully. A man is horsewhipped for bringing the sky into a cold room without after or before. They will nail his shadow to the door, and the Republic will sleep peacefully. A man swings like a broken clapper in a bell. The hangman knows all but cannot tell. The Republic must sleep peacefully.
When was this written?
5 years ago. 4 years ago. Okay, I'll do this and then we'll pass it back to you. This is called Open for Business. But some of these poems consider trade routes and how they change us in different ways. Others are situated in fairly everyday contexts, like a cafe, like this one. Open for business. Newspaper bunched in hand, you're misting the door with Lysol, wiping the glass panels in wide arcs. But the man in the blue paisley bandana, who's whistling the opening bars of Outside isn't planning to get scrubbed off the menu. He's pushing through with a crate of eggs, his hands itching for whisk and skin, the first Spanish omelette of the day. He's the dancer sweet-talking the boatman into getting her across the river. You are a tightrope walker with a limp, nursing a sore throat, who spray the swinging air with soap.
Now you have to sing something.
I have to sing?
She's in his Antakshari.
He is in the Antakshari mode. What I'm going to do is to read a poem that I know that some of us in this room perhaps were asked to write. around the same time about the monsoons. This was a commissioned poem. It was commissioned by the Indian Express. And my first impulse was to refuse. But sometime later, I said, all right, I'm going to give it a try. I was just terrified of writing what I think we've all encountered at some point, which is multiple, somewhat tiring versions of the Red Earth and Pouring Rain kind of poem. So how does one do it? Perhaps one can't, but there is an impulse to do it, and I think the impulse is born of the fact that we all know what it is like to confront, gobsmacked, the monsoon. So this is my attempt. A first monsoon again. Bombay, July 2016. At first, it's nostalgia. A downpour of kisses under a weeping umbrella. A euphoria of Gulmohar. An eternity of Adrak Chai. Every moment, the memory of a previous one. When the skies were crazier, love purer, life simpler. When the heart was Malabar, the spirit Arabian, desire Coromandel, laughter more Jean Kelly. And words like Barish and Murray were headier, truer. The first rains are always this plagiarism of yearning. Every moment, the echo of another. The thunder, the roar of an outlawed god, whose hair is a foaming green river through which seahorse and carp dart drunkenly around a crescent moon. And every dark cloud a courier from a classical past, and longing a rising fever of loam and thirst. A man whose voice is blue ash and oatmeal and wetness. It takes a long time to arrive at this Tuesday at 11ness, when we open our windows to the outrage, the impossible nowness, the gasp, the sock in the chest, the raving psychosis, the brazen never-beforeness, and say the word, our voices alight with unguarded wonder and a kind of pristine terror. Monsoon. I ran out of water.
In the same issue.
Shakuntala.
I would love to do Shakuntala, but I don't want to do Shakuntala because I think it might be too much for this. No, it's a poem cycle, that's what I mean, and I don't want to inflict a poem cycle.
Walking out in protest.
They are walking out in
They're not.
anticipation. That's it. Yeah, there is a... Okay, I'm going to do... Should I? Okay, this is the title poem of the book, When God is a Traveler. And it has a god whom we all know. This is Muruga, the South Indian warrior god. Muruga is a god who interests me for various reasons. One of them is that amongst his many names is Subramaniam, which is my own name. So I grew curious about him, and I started thinking about my name. And that's how the poem happened. But what's interesting about Murugan is that he, as we know, for those of you who don't know the story, and I'm not going into the details, but like so many other heroes in world myth, he sets out on a journey with a mission. And he slays many enemies on the way and returns a long time later to find that his answers are to be found back home. And of course, if your parents are Shiva and Shakti, the answers will be found back home. In the process, he retraces a journey that is familiar to many of us. It's a journey from innocence to experience, a journey to a reclaimed innocence, in a way. When God is a traveler, wondering about Kartikeya, Muruga, Subramaniam, my namesake. Trust the God, back.
Something tells me Ganesha is not too happy with
I
this.
think this is definitely the curse of Ganesha, but we will try again. And if it doesn't work, I will just change the
You just call upon Jesus.
I was that might work. In fact, the prodigal son story is a similar one. Yeah. Trust the God, back from his travels. His voice whole grain and chamomile. His wisdom, mean. His peacock, sweaty plumed, drowsing in the shadows. Trust him who sits wordless on park benches, listening to the cries of children fading into the dusk. His gaze emptied of vagrancy, his heart of ownership. Trust him who has seen enough. Revolutions, promises, the desperate light of shopping malls, hospital rooms, manifestos, theologies, the iron taste of blood, the great craters that lie in the middle of love. Trust him who no longer begrudges his brother his prize, his parents their partisanship. Trust him whose race is run, whose journey remains, who stands fluid-stemmed, knowing he is the tree that bears fruit, festive with sun. Trust him who recognizes you, abundant, auspicious, battle-scarred, alive, and knows from where you come. Trust the God, ready to circle the world all over again. This time, for no reason at all, other than to see it through your eyes. We won't take up more of your time. I think we'll conclude with one poem each, if that's all right. Want to go first, Hoskote? It seems sometimes like poets are constantly writers, generally. There's a sort of pressure, insidious and sometimes not so insidious, to be spokespersons for a cause. And sometimes it feels like all the causes are taken. So what are we left with? And what is the group that might actually, what is the tribe that might actually elect one as its representative is another question altogether. So it took me time to think this through. And I finally decided I found my people. This is for my people. I speak for those with orange lunchboxes. I speak for those with orange lunchboxes who play third tree in an orchard of 8 in the annual school play, who aren't head girls, games captains, class monitors, who watch other girls fight for the seesaw from the far wall across the sandpit, who remember everyone's lines but their own, who pelt after the school bus, their mother's breakfast still lurching in their gut, who still believe there'll be exams one day that they'll be ready for. Those with orange lunchboxes. I speak for them.
The Murugan poem has long been one of my favorite poems, and one of the sequences of things that I'm showing at the Arundhathi Palace right now is installing an exhibition called The Sacred Every Day, is a set of tempera on board originals from which calendar prints were made, calendars were printed. And it's wonderful to see the various forms of Subramaniam, Murugan, Ganesha and Kartikeya together. It puts you in mind of this very strange pair of brothers, or half brothers, or one-quarter brothers, and their very different understanding of what pilgrimage is and what discovery is about. So, yeah, I'll read two poems. This one's called Marine Drive. There's a colour whose name I've lost to the ash fleece of cloud, the grackled light of a monsoon sky seesawing in the haze, unframed, a trap for the sailboat wheeling in the bay. This colour that hovers between tenses, some call it violet, others squeeze their eyes shut when it surges through slate-grey folds of water, either not yet or too late, never tame at your heel. But look, the rocks are coming into view, dazed seals resurrected from the waves. The tides worked itself loose of the shore and drifted out. There are no explanatory notes. What's left behind is not the remainder. There's a colour whose name I cannot speak. And I'll close with one called The Refugee Pauses in Flight. This is for someone whose work has been very important to me over the years, and who I see from time to time. And he continues to be an enormous inspiration. This is the Somali novelist Northern Farah. The Refugee Pauses in Flight for Northern Farah.
I hate to say this, but I feel a sudden impulse, if you will allow me. I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt, just when a reading is meant to close, but there's something about journeys, when you're talking about journeys, it just feels to me right. For me, I'd like to share a poem called Banaras, because we've talked about particular kinds of journeys, and I feel what we're reflecting now, especially when you come to the refugee poem, is another kind of journey. I'd like to read my Banaras poem, if that's all right, but may I read it now, or shall I read it after yours? No. Is it all right, Mariana?
The Refugee Pauses in Flight for Northern Farah. What should I call it, this number that has no name? Countries are working hypotheses that sometimes fail. I escape from mine, my wings aflame, doused, my route sketched in rumors, an alphabet of stone and diesel tapping at my ribs. Invented reasons, found in a drawer of mislaid knives. Never look back, not even at the veined marble columns, the coiling creepers, the rusty sea gate, the orange tree, all that you thought was you. Even the briefest glance over the shoulder could turn you to salt on a photograph. Pick up the keyring, slowed by its bunch of yellowed date tags. Where to draw the borders of the occupied city, across brain lobes that sleep while fingers twitch in spasms, across tents that shiver and capsize on a frozen beach, across graves on which the wild basil has grown. Living among strangers, he almost forgot the names of his gods.
I hope you'll buy the books, and you'll find the Banaras poem in there, as many others. Ranjit's new book is out. No, the reason I did it, you know, this is the Jugalbandi, right? You're allowed to be a little informed.
No.
But I didn't want to, then I felt this was a nice moment to end. Okay. Okay. But I'm afraid the tone changes with Banaras. The reason I felt like reading it is, for me, When God is a Traveler is a book about journeys, primarily. And there are journeys that are taken by Murugan. There are journeys that are taken by Shakuntala, from the hermitage to the city, to the court, and back again, and we're trying to figure out where she belongs. There's the journey of a woman called Mrs. Salim Sheikh on a train, and there is a journey to Banaras. So there are all kinds of journeys. And I think if there is a new book, it will be about the intensification of journeys, talking about tropes that intensify. This is Banaras, and it was triggered by a signboard that some of us found on Kedar Ghat, which said Moonlight English Coaching Center. O label to standard label. LEBAL, you know, it's level clearly. Sign on Kedar Ghat, August 2009. It was a lovely signboard. We took a photograph and it was a happy memory of Banaras. Banaras. Label 1. There shall be no collisions as long as every cow sports 5 heads, 12 legs, 8 wheels, 10 bicycle bells, and 1 moon. Label 2. This pandit with the cheddar cheese voice has scratched his tummy as long as that dog has dreamt of transmigration. Label 3. No board exams here. The living are coached on lying, the dead on rebirthing, the priests on parody. Manikarnika blazes in an endless semi-final. Label 4. Pizza Hut here is just 1,000 years old. Label 5. Each time he spits, he unleashes a torrent of juice, snot, stomach enzymes, and a lather. Incredible India, you say, the universe in a globule of palm, profligate with mucus and metaphysics, sparing only without semen. Label 6. Paul arrives from Kerala with brandy, returns with Gangajar. His sadhu friend and guide is ex-Naxalite. Label 7. Manya calls. She asks where I am. I am blank. Before me, the hotel wallpaper, a palm-fringed sea, has turned grey with the effluence of those that have lain here before me, contemplating death and room service. That evening, label 8. We hunt, we thirst, we ache, desperate pilgrims, fevered seekers, for just 1 millimeter of riverbank that we can call God-forsaken.